Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here, and it's time for this week's weekly adventures. So it looks like we have a 1.5, a 3, and a 3.5 star adventure. For the 1.5, we have Dying Laughing. Game start, all players summon a 0/10 Phantom Prankster. So you see that right here. When another ally dies, deal 1 to the enemy Nexus. So this will be great for a lot of the Shadow Isles champions because they already either have Phantom Prankster in their deck or they just have a lot of their own units dying, and so they're constantly going to be able to deal that extra damage to the enemy Nexus. So Thresh, Kindred, Gwen, all of those will be very good at this, especially because some of them, like Gwen or Kindred, are potentially summoning units every single round. So this is just going to be a nice way that you can work on burning down the enemy Nexus. But some other decks that have a lot of units and have more of a swarm playstyle, so like the Poro King or Misfortune would also be very good for this. Misfortune, you're summoning an ephemeral unit every round that already does damage to the Nexus, so doing even more damage to the Nexus would definitely be helpful. And then for the Poro King, you already are kind of wanting to have a unit die every round from your star powers, so all of those should be able to benefit from this fairly easily. Next up then, we have Multiplying Tendrils. Round start, all players spawn 1, so that will obviously be great for Alawi. And then Hearty Feast, so the foe's units have tough. For this, you're really just going to want to avoid units that do more poke damage, so ones like Misfortune or even Nami. A lot of those spells will just hit random targets and not do that much damage, so that won't really be great here. You'd also probably want to avoid Vhagar, since that tough is going to reduce down how much damage you're dealing to them, as well as reducing Vhagar's level up condition then. But having a unit on the board every round, especially one that's going to be growing in size every round if it doesn't die, won't be bad. And then both Alawi and Neela also have a decent amount of spawn in their kit, so if you want to really focus on the Tendril, you'll be able to do that. But honestly, this will be an adventure that you can take pretty much any champion as long as they're not getting countered by this Hearty Feast right here. Next up then we have Rockus Roar. So when the foe attacks, give the player's units -2 power this round. Blade in the Darkness, this is the one you really want to play around. Round end, if the player's Nexus took damage this round, the foe's strongest unit strikes it. And then the Vicious Enemy, that's always here. Now Blade in the Darkness is a big one. You want to focus on trying to make sure they're not hitting your Nexus at all. If, however, they are hitting your Nexus, you then want to sabotage their strongest unit so they can't do a lot of damage to you. So if for some reason they are able to hit your Nexus, you weren't able to block it, maybe they had like an elusive that you couldn't deal with, then you want to either take out their strongest unit or maybe frostbite it so that it's not able to hit your Nexus. So having some control decks would be decent, stuns would work well, keeping people from being able to hit your Nexus, but stunning a unit that's already hit your Nexus isn't going to stop this from going off. So Frostbite would also be decent here because that way, if you're not able to Frostbite them before they hit your Nexus, if you Frostbite them after, you can then stop the follow-up attack. So any control decks here like Annie, Yasuo, Ashe, that'll all be decent here. You just have to remember how to use your control for this. You gotta stun first, and then Frostbite can be used either before or after to try to counter this power. Now there's potentially going to be some fearsome opponents in this adventure, and with that first power, they might try to reduce your power down so that you can't actually block. So especially if you don't go for the more scaling route, you want to be able to have tough units that can block whatever they throw at you. So some of the more combative champions that have good scaling, such as Kayn or Garen, would be pretty good here, especially Garen with that single combat, letting you remove enemy threats even if you couldn't block them. So if they just overwhelmed you with cards, or if they had something like elusive and you didn't have a blocker for it, being able to use that single combat to still take them out every round would work out quite well here. That being said, even with all my suggestions, I know half of you are just going to choose like Jinx and blow through this anyways. Overall though, I think this will be a solid adventure where you can bring almost anyone. You just really have to be playing around these powers and then you should be fine. So it's not really an adventure that you have to focus on a specific champion. You just definitely need to be ready to counter these two powers. Alright, that's it for these weeklies. If you have any awesome combos, definitely comment them down below. I hope you all have a great day and a great week.